election. Oh, yeah.
Call the Cocalico Township meeting for February 6th. Please rise and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you have cell phones, please turn them off. We have some special things we want to do right off the bat this morning. Well, with mixed emotions, I'll read this. I'd like to thank everybody for coming to the meeting this morning. Dear Gail Sizer, at its February 6th meeting, the Board of Supervisors, please come forward. I'm sorry. We accepted with regret your retirement from the East Cocalico Police Department with your last day of employment February 13th this year. While you will be missed, we personally congratulate you on your retirement and thank you for your dedicated service to the township. Retirement will surely offer you many new opportunities, which you know you will embrace wholeheartedly, just as you have done as an East Cocalico policeman. We wish you the best, and how about a round of applause for her? This young lady has done a lot for the township over these many years, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is a small token of our gratitude.
Oh, I really appreciate it. Thank you all for coming too today.
Thanks, Gail.
That's nice.
Thank you. Thank you, Gail. Okay. Mr. Fisher. And thanks for bringing your grandchildren along. At its February 6th meeting, the Board of Supervisors accepted with regret your retirement from East Cocalico Police Department, and your last day will be February 29th this year. While you'll be missed, we personally congratulate you on retirement and thank you for your dedicated service to the township. Retirement will surely offer you many new opportunities and a lot of opportunities you've been doing all the years while you're here too, which we know you will embrace wholeheartedly. Just as you have been at East Cocalico Township, we wish you the best in your new endeavors. Thank you, officer.
Thank you.
And Josh. Ken and Josh, come on up. Please come forward. Over a year ago, we started giving out these plaques to new businesses in the township. So this morning, I'd like to congratulate these and belatedly give them this plaque. So they've been in the township for what, over a year now, roughly?
Year and a half.
Year and a half. They took over the Sanford Seed area and put a beautiful edifice there. So we thank you for moving to the township. And the signatures of the supervisors, the fire chiefs, and the police chief. This is a token of welcoming me to the township, so thank you. Thank you. Now, how about a round of applause for these guys?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
No, thank you. No, thank you. Here, do you want this? Do you want this?
Bye, thank you.
Next order of business, the approval of meeting minutes for January 23rd, 2020. Any additions or corrections to those minutes? Okay, I'll make a motion for minutes to approve the
second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Police Department, Chief.
Good morning. I wasn't planning on doing this, but since they're here, I'm not going to make them come up front, though. I'm embarrassing right away. We have our two new officers standing in the back of the room. To the left is Brandon Van Alsdal, and to the right is Brennan Lee. They started on Monday, and they did a phenomenal job. They're actually leaving here to go to CPR and first aid training for the morning, so I just wanted to recognize them and welcome them to the township. So I just have two quick things, and then I'll do my regular report at the next meeting. But yesterday we participated with the state police and many other local police departments in coordination with the Secret Service in reference to Vice President Pence coming through the area. We had 6 officers at various points on Spur Road, Colonel Howard Boulevard, 222, some of the overpasses. Everything went smoothly, thank goodness, but it was quite an interesting opportunity to participate in that. So we took care of that yesterday. Thank the officers that helped out. And again, it was uneventful, which was perfect for us. And the final thing is I received a check from Twin Pine Ford the other Friday, 2 Fridays ago, maybe it was last Friday. It's all running together, but it was a check for $1,000 to be used as we saw fit, and so we're going to use it for the equipment for the active shooter kits. So with all the donations that we've gotten so far, we are up to being able to purchase 5 kits. So we are very grateful to New Holland. I'm sorry. To Twin Pine Ford for their gracious donation, and it shows the community and the support we get. So I'm very thankful for that. That's all.
Any questions of the chief? Okay, thank you. Zoning officer, Tony.
Yeah, as usual, I'll give my full report at the next meeting. But there were a couple of questions I'd just like to clear up. We had some questions at the last meeting concerning a couple of different items here in the township. And one of them was Mr. Jerry Hargraff had asked a question concerning the false alarm violations and where those funds would go. I checked with the financial administrator, and those funds are a separate line item in the budget, and that's usually where they go. They've never gone to any of the fire departments. As everybody knows, predominantly our police department responds first to any false alarm violation. But at least we can get that information out so the people know exactly where it comes. We had also a question concerning a couple of properties at the last meeting. The use of ag buildings, ag barns as storage and whatnot. I believe Mr. Mackley mentioned 290 Wabash Road. There was a sign out front for storage and rental. I have since met with that property owner. The sign has been removed, and they have no intentions of renting out that building. I told them basically what they're going to have to do is come before my zoning hearing where you get approval for that. No principal use on the property, and they'd have to do it per the ordinance. Excuse me. Second one was 27 Garden Spot Road. That's an ag property, and there is a small antique shop in that building. I contacted the owners of that property and explained to them exactly the same situation. They will meet with me in the next week and a half to go through that process of zoning hearing approval. Until that happens, they have voluntarily said that they will not conduct any sales in that building. Currently, that property has a contractor on that property. He's a general contractor. He's been on that property for the last 40 years, and he runs his contracting business out of the barn. There's a small portion in the barn that his wife was using for her hobby, antiques. So we'll take care of that one. And the last one was 129 Reinhold's Road. Some of the board members would remember that property is owned by a couple of local residents, one of them being a previous supervisor, but there used to be a contracting business on that property. Been there for well over 40 years. I believe Mr. Buckles made a comment that it was always a farm. Looking at my paperwork and my zoning maps back to 1968, the property was zoned Business 1, R1, and a small portion was ag. Quite honestly, that property was never a full-blown farm. It was always business or business-related as well as residential. And what they're doing there now is less intense than what was previously done there with the contracting business. So, with the less intensity, he's always had outdoor storage, he's always had storage in the buildings, and as it stands now, it's previously existing, non-conforming, it's allowed to continue. So, just to clarify a few of those items, I wanted to bring it to the board's attention that we made some progress to get those items sorted out.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Any
That's all I
que-
have.
okay. Any other questions for Tony? Okay, thank you, Tony.
Yep.
Roadmaster,
Morning.
Chris, morning.
It's been a while since I was here. Since I last seen you guys, we installed the traffic calming signs on North Greenstown Road. We had it operational for close to a month. We have them currently shut down now, so it's not constantly going on that way. When it goes back active again, it'll catch their eye. It won't be something that you normally see. I forwarded the information to Lisa for pen bids for our upcoming road work this year for her to enter all of that. We assisted the water authority on a leak on James Drive. We basically milled the road up for them, and then we left. We rewired our oldest trailer, which we had purchased from MGS in 2000. I think they had purchased that. We were having an issue of the lights staying on. It's the old style lighting. The trailer bounces, lights go off. The trailer bounces, lights come back on. So we basically stripped the trailer of all the wiring and rewired the whole thing with LED. We rented the bucket truck to Denver Borough for them to remove their Christmas lights. I hauled 2 loads of mix down to Adamstown. We received 140 tons of salt to date. The crew pulled the plows in before the snow came, basically sanded the plows down to rust, primered them, and put a fresh coat of paint on them. Hopefully that's all we have to do with them this winter. We cindered 5 times in the township, and we plowed once. So, I mean, hopefully winter stays on course. This will be good for the budget. We assisted Mr. McCray here in marking all his bridges to do his MS4. He likes to play in the water in the winter.
Watch the road crew play in the water.
We're working with Tyler Victorn and PP&L to get the power to the lower parking pool lights at the pool. Tyler said it could be 2 to 3 weeks till PPL gets their part done, which at that point then Tyler will look at his schedule for when he can get into help, and then we'll dig a trench from the panel to the nearest light pole. Hopefully that is where, hopefully we pick the right pole where the energy is going to. That way we don't dig up more ground than we have to. We chipped a total of 205 Christmas trees this year. That was it. So I don't know if people are buying artificial or they're buying trees to plant, but that number's down probably a good 70 trees from normal. I did a walkthrough through the phase 2 and 3 of Morganshire to check the road, because that's coming due. I found no issues with it. The damage to the road would have been done basically by homeowners already in the development having outsourced contractors to come in to plant trees, anything else. It's basically dumpsters being plopped on the road, or people coming in with equipment that they lower the trailers down, and of course that digs into the road. None of this had anything to do with the work by the developer in doing the roads. This was all after the fact. It's minor damage. It's basically, we can go out there with our crack sealer when we get the crack sealer up and running when the weather finally dries on us again, and we can patch those little areas. Other than that, I thought the phase 2 and 3 repairs that were made to Morganshire looked very well. The crappy weather, we've been servicing the trucks. If we're not servicing the trucks, the guys are out basically do MS4 storm drain inspections. We're on the second group of storm drains, and there's roughly 300 drains that need to be inspected by June. I'm also working on doing I&I pricing, since there is a grant out there and available to look at our storm system, so I've been working on that. Basically, that's all I have.
Any questions of the room, Master?
Yeah, I had something there, Chris. We've been, my new role as assistant financial, treasurer.
Yeah.
We're signing checks and going through bills and such. This H&H contractor there that's spreading salt for us.
Yes,
Are they using our material? Are they using their own?
they use our material.
Okay, so it's just a truck and labor situation for them.
Correct.
Is the thought process here just to get things done quicker, more timely that way?
Yes.
Or okay, all right.
It's, he basically, for us to get services in, they're roughly going for like $100 an hour.
This was
And
good.
since he doesn't have, his material that he uses in his private business is strictly straight salt, where we have a mix of two parts salt, 1 part anti-skid. So basically, he'll come there, we'll load him, he'll cinder, he comes back, dumps off whatever he didn't use, and then he goes on with his business.
Okay.
I mean, we got him at a fairly decent price compared, like you say, I mean, most of them bill for $100 an hour. He's a little cheaper.
So you find him helpful in getting everything covered quicker, is that?
Yes,
That's the
I mean,
conclusion.
he's basically in the development areas. I mean, there's been times that I have had not used them, all on how the weather is, knowing that it could be iffy. Development traffic should be driving at 25 miles an hour in a development. So I might not call him out right away. My main concern is the higher speed outlying roads. But when it's full blown and we have to get to everywhere, then I have him come in.
And your normal cleanup, I believe you said takes 8 hours?
For a snowstorm, for a normal like 4-inch storm that we have, we'll cinder first. But when we put the plows on, from the time we start plowing, we have gotten it down to 8 to 8.5 hours.
And that's with all your extra people and
That's with all the extra people helping to plow. That last year was the first year where we had a 4-inch storm that we got it down below 9 hours.
Yeah, I noticed back our way last year, there was times when it went a while previous years, but last year things got done in a lot quicker, more timely manner.
And I think it's only right to the residents. I mean, for somebody to leave their house to go to work and there's snow on the road, to come home 8 hours later with snow on the road, that can be frustrating. Because you're coming home, you know you got to clean your sidewalk and your driveway, yet the plow truck hasn't been through. I mean, I'd like to see everything done. I mean, our neighbors, they have smaller footprints than we do, so they're done in 4 to 6 hours. That's a little frustrating, but they're smaller. That's what it is.
I just wanted to thank you. The other day I had a chance to tour the maintenance shed and see what the equipment that the township owns, and I just wanted to thank you for your time for that.
I appreciate you coming out and seeing.
Very informative, and I got to see the document room where all the boxes and things are stored from back, I guess, in ancient times when horses and buggies were the only thing running here. So that was very
I don't think it
informative.
was that bad.
Seemed injuring. So thank you for your time.
Any questions for the roadmaster? Treasurer's report.
Okay, treasurer's report. Total general fund, $53,182.57. Total traffic impact fund, $8,296.40. Any questions?
I'll make a motion the bills be paid as presented. For a second.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Land planning. Carriage Hill Thumb Extension.
yes. Fred isn't here because these are two just really basic things. So we just need to accept they have offered a 90-day time extension. so I'm asking that the board would accept that. So the motion would be to accept the written 90-day time extension offer as submitted by the applicant's consultant dated January 31, 2020, which will extend the deadline for the action on the Carriage Hill preliminary final subdivision plan until May 24th of 2020.
Anybody here representing on plan? I'll make that motion. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you.
The second item under the engineer's report for action was the Morganshire Phase 2 and 3, the roadway dedication and maintenance security release. As our roadmaster stated earlier, he did go out and inspect those roads, and he believes that everything looks good there and is acceptable to the township. So that motion would be to acknowledge the expiration of the 18-month maintenance period for the prior dedication of the roadways related to phases 2 and 3 of the Morganshire development, and authorize release of the associated maintenance security in the amount of $166,545.15.
Anybody here representing this? I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, 51 Cocalico Creek Road. Jordan Martin's text amendment allows adaptive reuse of agriculture building discussion.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm Dwight Yoder from Gilmore Craig Pass. I'm here on behalf of Jordan and Rachel, who are here, and I know they were at, I think, the last supervisors meeting, and had an opportunity to maybe give a little input in terms of what they're looking for, and we wanted to just kind of follow up on that meeting. I do have a few handouts, and I think this will help explain really kind of what we're talking about. So let me pass these out.
I was going to hand it over.
A few other. So what I handed you is two packets. One is just, there's some pictures in here, and I'm going to quickly walk through that, and the other is information about a little bit what they're proposing. What I'm hoping to do is just explain to the supervisors a little bit why we want the township to consider this text amendment that would allow them to have some ability to use the ag buildings on their property. Before I kind of get into the nuts and bolts, just a little background. So this is a 5th generation family that wants to continue farming. And as everybody knows here, farming is becoming increasingly challenging, not just in Lancaster County, but across the state. And so municipalities have done what they can to support farmers. And this is a case where they live there, they have 2 children, and they want to make a go of it to keep this in ag. Now, as is typical with many farms, and I'm not a farmer, so I'm okay. You know, there's a lot of buildings that have been built, barns, outbuildings, tobacco sheds, that at one time were extremely useful and critical to the operation of the farm. But those buildings have gotten to a point where either, depending on how they were built, they can't handle the type of equipment that's being used now, or there's no longer an animal operation going on, it's just crop farming, and so they have a lot of empty buildings, essentially. And so, as this township has done, and many other townships, you try and find ways to allow farmers to supplement their income from kind of traditional farm activities with using some of their buildings. And what's interesting here is the township in their ag district has what's called a farm occupation. And that's fairly typical and standard that you find across the entire county. It makes a lot of sense. What it says is, hey, you can use some of these buildings to have a farm occupation if you live on the property, if it's secondary and incidental to the overall ag use of the property, and you're not turning it into something that's kind of overtaking what's there. That all makes sense. So what's interesting here is, and let me just go to this handout, this first one is just an aerial, so you can just kind of see where it's at. And then the second page shows a little more up close of the farmstead area where the house is, and the barn, and tobacco shed, and some of the other buildings that have been there. Well, now this is again 5th generation that's there. And then if you go after that, there's just some pictures of the buildings. And that's just to give you a sense of what's there. So what's interesting about this property, and this is the zoning map, if you look at this, is that it's not in your ag district. It's in your commercial district. So here you have a family that wants to continue and make this farm operation and keep it in ag, but it's zoned commercial, which, you know, in the commercial district, ag districts are allowed. I mean, ag uses are allowed. So that's fine. But in the commercial district, guess what's not permitted? A farm occupation. So when we had originally sent in a letter, and this was after we met with township staff, we had said, well, maybe what we should do is an adaptive reuse, which the township has for some other districts. And based on the feedback from the last meeting, and kind of looking at the ordinance and thinking through this, maybe an adaptive reuse isn't the way to go, because I think one of the concerns that at least was relayed to me was if you do an adaptive reuse for the entire ag district, you don't quite know what you're going to get. And of course, whenever there's a text amendment, the elected officials are very nervous of unintended consequences, which is something that I'm very aware of, because, hey, we like what you want to do, but we don't know what the next 10 properties or 100 properties are going to do. So we heard that and we get that. So what I'm here to suggest and for you to think about and maybe give us some feedback is, we already know in the ag district that a farm occupation is permitted as part of an ag use. In the commercial district, ag uses are permitted, but no farm occupation. So I'm looking at this thinking, well, the simple solution isn't to like open up the ag district to adaptive reuse. It's simply to allow farm occupation in the commercial district, with maybe a few tweaks to allow what I would say is a little bit more area, because you're in the commercial district versus the ag district. So if you look at the last page, this is your ordinance, and you can just see I hand wrote in there just some of my ideas. And again, depending on how the supervisors feel about this, we could work with township staff to, you know, figure out how this might work. But what this does is it basically says, listen, if you're in the commercial district and you have an active farm, we're going to let you do a farm occupation, which I think you should have been able to do anyway, because that's permitted in the ag district. You should be able to do a farm occupation, because the whole point of farm occupation is let's let farmers have a side occupation to generate some income so they can continue to farm. The nice thing about this is they're living there, right? So that's always the trick with a farm occupation. If you live there and you're running the occupation, there's much less of concern that it's going to get out of hand. If you're living there, it's your business or your occupation. When you start having third parties come in and you don't live there, you don't know what you're going to get. So what I like about this approach is, A, it's not affecting the ag district at all. So you're not opening up the township to a lot of ag buildings that you're not sure what you're going to get. Understand that ag buildings right now under the farm occupation could be used up to 4,000 square feet. So you already have that in there, but it's fairly limited and it requires that the people that are running the business live on the property. So it's the exact same concept. The only two changes that, at least at this point, that I've kind of identified is, and this gets to this handout. So they would like to have around 9,000 square feet of indoor storage. The pages behind that just kind of show how they would divide up the different buildings to allow for that. So it'd be all indoor storage, no outdoor storage. It's not commercial space. I've seen storage that is much more than storage. This is dead storage, where people are gonna store things there. They're not gonna be running a small repair business or whatever. But the current farm occupation allows up to 4,000 square feet. So we would propose in the commercial district that you could have a farm occupation and you can have up to 10,000 square feet. That could even be limited to storage. So in other words, you could leave it at 4,000, but allow a little bit larger in the commercial district. The reality of it is, when you look at this map, now this isn't all of your commercial zone, but there's probably fairly limited number of ag operations in your commercial district currently. So that should address the ripple unintended consequences. And I think it's just good planning, because if you happen to have somebody like the Martins that want to keep a farm, but they're zoned commercial, let's figure out a way for that to happen. And so that's the concept, and it's a little different than what was proposed before, which was the adaptive reuse. And I get it, that can cause people to pause a little bit and say, well, is this really what we want to do? So I don't know, Jordan and Rachel, did you have anything you wanted to say?
I think you covered it pretty well. Those are our main goals. And,
Yeah.
I mean, we're not using the buildings now, and if we don't have an economic return from them, I don't really have a way to keep them up.
So, yeah, I mean, here's a young family, 2 kids. I think it's a good opportunity with a very focused text amendment that, at the end of the day, I think doesn't expose the township at all. And I think actually brings, since ag uses are permitted in the commercial district, I think farm occupation should be as well. I mean, they kind of so I don't know, Tony, I didn't get a chance to talk to you about this, and maybe you have any comments, but that was the thought, and we had met with township staff, and they thought, probably the text amendment's the way to go. We had talked about adaptive reuse, but based on the feedback before, I thought, well, this is much more limited and focused, and it's pretty much using what's already in the ordinance.
When you use the term farm occupation, that's a real general term in my mind. How do you narrow that down specifically in a case like this?
Yeah, well, the ordinance is very specific, and it has requirements for what that is. So, the definition, I think, requires that, here, an accessory use to the primary agricultural use of a property in which residents engage in a secondary occupation conducted on a farm. So, you're right to the extent that there's always some vague terms there, and you know how attorneys are, they'll come in and argue this and that, but this is what's in your ordinance. We're not proposing to change that. And I think the key is operated by residents on the property.
Well, that ordinance says occupation. I mean, technically, is this an occupation if it's just rental units?
Yeah, I mean, I think
I think the term or the definition of occupation really implies in.
Yeah.
To Jeff's point, there's variation there.
Right. When you look at the criteria for farm occupation, it says that basically it should be cover a wide range of uses. So I think the point isn't an occupation like I'm doing this on a full-time basis, I have employees, but it's much more as a supplemental form of income. So that's how I would look at it. And that's, I think, how it's been interpreted, not just here, but kind of everywhere. But you're right, these words always can be. So I don't know if there's any other comments, questions. I guess what we were hoping for is some feedback. Obviously, the board doesn't need to take a position on this. What we want to know is if this is something that you would consider, because if so, then we'll start working through the process of preparing a text amendment. But if there's no interest, we'd like to know that.
So, Tony, a question for you. The information you researched from the last meeting, what impact does that have on what we just heard?
Well, I think it's, excuse me, I'm fighting a cold. the board needs to be cognizant of, we have 2 separate storage unit facilities in the township that went through the full land development process. To get their approval, and then the commercial zone and all that kind of stuff. Although this is a localized area that we're talking about, opening up those accessory buildings to anybody who has an accessory building to use as another principal use or even a special exception use, have to be careful of hurting what we already have there. So we're treading a fine line here. The Martins certainly have a valid concern and a right to ask for it. It's
Yeah, let me just say one thing about the existing mini warehouses.
And that's the key word there. If you throw in the word existing, would that?
Well, I guess what I would say is, I don't make any apologies for having somebody who wants to keep a farm in farmland by using their building. And I don't think there's any basis for somebody who has developed ag land to put in mini warehouses to complain that somebody who is living with their family on a farm wants to use their farm buildings. While it competes potentially with what they're doing, it's apples and oranges to me. This is about a policy decision of how do you support farmers staying and keeping in the township land in the ag zone. And to suggest, we're not gonna let you do this, so go ahead and put your mini warehouses in and develop the property is counterproductive. It's like, that's not what you want. And, you know, I just think well, I appreciate maybe their concern and frustration that somebody can come in and they had to do all this other stuff, but they're different. They're not trying to operate a farm. They're just coming in and turning a buck. And these folks, they got 73 acres that they want to keep in ag land. And I just think that's a no-brainer.
When I first heard the presentation, you know, I looked at it that we're talking about, you know, a farm-related business, and then all of a sudden we're putting a sign out and the general public's coming in. And, you know, that is a whole different set of requirements than what is being looked at now. You know, I look at the term farm occupation as farm-related. And you know, there's many instances of that throughout the county, whether it be corn mazes or other farm-related activities. And the Farmland Preservation Board looks at that kind of stuff favorably, allows it to happen in their means. But when you're bringing the public in on a farm, you know, what about handicap accessibility? All those kind of things come into play.
Well, it's interesting because your ordinance has actually 2 different uses. You have a farm occupation and a farm-related business. And that, again, is pretty standard. So farm-related business is something that's related to ag. And it can usually be much more intense, frankly. A farm occupation is not related to ag. It's related to helping farmers bring in some income, which includes little businesses where the public comes in. But you're right, we're not asking for the supervisors to do anything that you're not already allowing, other than, since it's in the commercial district, maybe allowing for some additional area to be used. But I think the question you're asking is more a philosophical question about what's in the ordinance, which not really here to argue that, but I understand the concern. What I'm just saying is, this is already permitted in, you know, for farms, and it should be permitted for farms that are in the commercial district, because it's permitted for farms in the ag district. But I think you're right. Whenever you have a farm occupation where the public's coming in, whether it's a small repair shop or a woodworking shop, it does raise a bunch of other issues, and they're going to have to get a building permit, and they're going to have to meet those requirements for commercial, you know, renovation. So, you know, if there's electric there, it's going to have to meet commercial standards. So it's not like those requirements will be unmet, but it does change the farm a bit.
So that being said, with all those requirements having to be met, just commercialize it and move on.
Well, I mean,
in the right district.
Yes, I guess they could, but why would you want a fifth-generation family to continue to farm it.
Well, we do.
Yeah, I guess that's,
But we want safety and everything else addressed there as well.
well, right, and it would be addressed. But I guess what I'm saying is this is what's in place to help families who want to stay on a farm, stay on a farm. It's already there. So it's already part of how the ordinance operates. It would simply be now extended to the commercial district for those few farms that don't want to develop it. They want to keep it, but, you know, people don't control how their property is zoned. It's zoned by the township. So just because a farm is in a commercial district doesn't necessarily mean, believe it or not, that they want to cash out and develop it. You know, that they do want to keep this as a farm. I would just come back to the point, if they wouldn't live there and they weren't working the farm, then I think some of those concerns are more valid. Because then it does feel like this is just a strictly commercial transaction by somebody who's not even there. And that's why I like this farm occupation, because you have to live there. And if you're living there, that's a very different thing than if you live somewhere else.
Let me ask you a question. You mentioned additional area, but what I'm looking at here is, correct me if I'm wrong, but the footprint of these buildings is really remaining exactly the same.
That's right.
There's no addition to it, right?
Nope.
So, some of the things that I'm hearing is, I mean, I see 3 or 4 primary points here, right? One of them is their primary fundamental business, the core of what they're doing at that property's farming, right? That's your core
How many
fundamental.
acres do you farm?
Farm tillable?
Mhm.
I rent some more acres, it's about 100.
Okay, but that's your primary core function, right? So number 2 is the existing footprint on these buildings fundamentally really is not changing. Right. And what we're really looking at is I think the big question we're asking it is, what is the proper blend or balance between true farming as your core function, your core business, and some additional items that can help you support that farming, is really what we're looking at here, okay? I can say that one of the things we need to consider is the maintenance factors of, if you can't support with the farming all of these additional outbuildings, what are the condition? I'm thinking ahead in terms of what are the condition of these buildings and how are they going to look in another 5 or 10 years, versus if you've got the minimal income in there that can help you support those buildings, and architecturally, from someone passing by, they remain and look original to the original farming culture and roots of East Cocalico. So you keep it architecturally consistent. So
Yeah,
I
I mean, I
fundamentally
think you are
understand.
hitting the right points, and like I said, when we were thinking through this before, we were thinking of the adaptive reuse, and that's a little more complicated to think of unintended consequences, because do you want every ag building out there? I mean, there's ways to limit that as well, but by looking at the farm occupation and maybe massaging that for a farm in the commercial district, I think you take what's already there and you just adapt it for those farms that are in the commercial district. Any other questions or comments?
Why would you not look at this just as a strict zoning question? Go in front of the zoning hearing board and make the case.
Well, because the problem is, the way the ordinance is written is you have to ask for a variance the way it's written now. And you won't be able to establish a hardship for a variance. As you well know, the zoning board in East Cocalico doesn't grant variances, or very rarely.
We have, 13 years on here, we have. I think it is true, though, you've got to show a genuine.
Yeah, and I think in meeting with township staff, you know, that is a couple $1,000 process to go through. Then if you get denied, then you're right back here. I mean, I think my preference is, if the ordinance as written right now isn't designed for that. It's to first see, well, are the folks who make the ordinance willing to change it? And if not, then we have to see if we're plan B, where we go from there. I mean, for example, many warehouses are permitted, but it's considered a second principal use. Under the ordinance, it says if you have a second principal use, you have to show that those uses could be on its own separate lot. That's an impossible task with this existing configuration. We can't meet setbacks from the house and the barn because they were developed in whatever, 1940s. So, you know, it leads to,
Right there, that would be a hardship for, you can't move the buildings, you can't satisfy the setback.
well, that's true, and I think the whole thing just gets really complicated under the current zoning ordinance.
It does.
So,
Maybe to point out, the township has done this in the past with additional uses on farms, wood shops, buggy repair shops, breeding kennels, that sort of thing. Not a problem, they come to the zoning hearing board, they explain what they want to do, it's usually been granted. This one is a little bit different because now you have general public accessing a farm property. Now, with that additional traffic, there could be some issues with the roadway improvements and all of that kind of stuff that the township needs to take into account. And this was discussed with Brent and myself, Ms. Deover at the time. So we're trying to come up with something that could work. But this is not exactly the same as other special exception uses or additional farm uses on that property.
I think currently the farm occupation would allow storage in buildings in the ag district. I don't think we're asking for any different type of use. It says farm occupation may involve any one of the wide range of uses so long as it's compatible with the primary agricultural use of the land. And I will say, the administrator of Clean and Green takes the position that dead storage in ag buildings does not violate the terms of Clean and Green. Now, if you're doing commercial work in there, you're going to get rollback taxes. So I do think it is consistent with the overall ag use of the property. In fact, I think it's better than some that have employees coming in and they're working on machinery and things like that. So,
Do you have that in writing?
from Clean and Green, I may actually have an email from Sarah. Yeah,
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, could you give us a copy of that?
yeah, I can see if I can find it, yeah. She, we're actually doing a seminar on Clean and Green in her office, she's coming to talk, so we can ask her there. That is Clean and Green's a whole different topic, because, I get a lot of clients that get in trouble with Clean and Green, so. Well, that's all I have, and I guess, if the board's willing to at least consider this, we would move forward with a proposed text amendment. Obviously, the board will have to decide later if they want to approve that, but I guess I'm hoping if there's really no interest in this, that we would know that now.
I'm ready to take it under advisement, but I'm not ready to make a decision. You've brought new facts here today
Okay.
that were not here previously.
All right, well then we'll just sit tight and maybe,
Would you please?
Yeah, I wanted to thank you for what you sent, because this is a lot more information, a lot
Good,
more helpful.
good.
I just need some time to
yeah,
mull it over.
yep,
And then if you can get us Clean and Green information.
Yep, I will check on that. Great,
But thank you for all of that.
yeah, sure, thank you.
Thank you.
You would like this on the next meeting, then, gentlemen?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it should be on the next.
Next, yes. You got it. You got it.
So, Mr. Yoder, we'll put that on for the next meeting.
All right, is that gonna be the Thursday evening?
Yes.
So I don't know if I'll be able to be here. Are you expecting somebody, because I could have somebody else come? If-
I think you've probably answered most of our
Okay,
questions.
yeah, I could have somebody else. I mean, I'm sure George or Rachel can be here.
I'll be here, I'm
If
sure.
you gentlemen have any questions, I'm sure you would accept an email.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah, I mean, this is a legislative decision, so there can be
Yes.
communication, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, pedestrian cross at the High Country facility.
Okay, that was, the gentleman had asked about, putting, the embedded,
LEDs.
LEDs, and it's just received back that many areas that have installed that have since taken it out because it's nothing but issues and problems. And so they're just, John Chick did send you information on lighted signs instead, and so maybe that's something you want to think about.
If I'm not right, I think High Country put the other signs up. Doug, did High Country put the signs up for crosswalk?
Way back, yes.
Are they lighted though? These are LEDs.
Yeah, they're
They
flashing.
have flashing
They're
lights there.
flashing.
They have flashing lights there. So I'm wondering if we could just, good, Doug.
I don't think there's LED.
I think you talked about, excuse me, Doug Mackley, I think you talked at the last meeting about embedded flashing lights. You might just want to check with Lidditz, because they took theirs out.
Well,
They
that's
had
what we're
them.
saying.
She just said.
Yeah, that's,
what we're saying.
I missed that, I'm sorry.
that's exactly the information we were asking about that, you're correct. And then the information we got from our engineering is most of the municipalities that tried that technology, they're pulling it back out
Right,
because of the maintenance issues
Right.
with the technology.
snow plowing and everything.
Yes. On the island there on Denver Road that Hyde put in there, they had no crosswalk signs up. They keep getting hammered by traffic.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're thinking by putting in the LED lights in, it'd make it more visible. They did put a sign on Kurtz Road. It wasn't my sign, they put up an LED sign on Kurtz Road. It does stand out. I mean, if they're gonna go that way on Denver Road,
Then my thing was, I think, suggest that they put these signs on Denver Road. Because they put the other ones out.
Now, is that something you want them to purchase and we install?
they installed all of that on
We
their
install,
own.
okay.
Yeah.
So just forward this information on to my company.
That's be my opinion. I don't know what the, Ralph.
Ralph Buckles. I was on a facility yesterday that had same problem with cars running crosswalks with pedestrians. And what they had is a sign on either side of the crosswalk, and you hit a button like you would at an intersection to get the light to change. And what that does is that lights up LEDs around the sign on both sides.
That's what these are,
Okay.
LED signs, yep, it goes around the edges.
And they're actually solar powered.
It's exactly what they're
Yes,
recommending.
that's what they're
Okay,
recommending.
but they're extremely visible.
So that really caught your eye well?
It does.
Okay,
And it was set so traffic coming both directions
perfect.
saw the signage.
You want to send in information to Hyde
Yeah.
and see?
We'll absolutely do that.
Okay. Full business, MS4.
Yes, several things going on. Drafted a proposal for a elementary school kids contest for designing storm drain markers. These are metallic markers that actually go on the top part, not out in the roadway, but on the top of the concrete in the drains that will basically say something to the effect of no dumping in drains to creek. There's a lot of different wordings you can put on them. That would be part of the contest. There's a commercial source available for these. They run about $3 a piece. They're 4 inches, made of aluminum. The other possibility that I'm working on, as I recall, is loose aluminum to see if they can make them, if they're sourced locally in the township. And with the idea that we would try to find groups that would be willing to help us put them in place, basically to get epoxy on the concrete, such as maybe a Boy Scout Eagle project or similar thing. The reason for that is I went through and counted the number of ones in our subdivisions and major residential areas, nearly 700. So there are a lot of them, but it is kind of important because a lot of people, as we've seen in the past, have a tendency to dump stuff into the drains, whether it's grass clippings or
Leaves.
whatever, which is detrimental and is against the rules for MS4.
That's the drains to the waterway or drains to the ocean.
Correct.
Does that give us some credit towards MS4, or is that just?
Yes.
Yes.
That's it. We have 6 minimum control measures we must meet each year, and that's one of them.
Okay.
So that, I'm still waiting for a price from Goose Aluminum. But if we went with the other company, it would be roughly $2,100 plus there's some shipping on that, so maybe 700 of them away quite a bit, so. Probably under $2,500 for the cost of the project. But I'll get numbers for that, so that's,
Okay.
Hopefully we can keep the business in our community here. And
Yeah.
have that thing.
okay. Second thing is the stream sampling water quality project. I have the first volunteer who would step forward to help us out with the sampling. I have the conductivity meter, and I just checked the tracking on the package, and it should probably be here tomorrow by still measure conductivity. So we're then about ready to begin that project. We have the waiver for the volunteers. It'll be signed, and then we'll do training sessions before we actually start doing the collecting. But we should be able to get that actually up and running in the next couple of weeks. That's the goal.
We need to put a drop-off place out front, right?
Yeah,
Did you
we'll have
talk to
to figure
Margaret?
out that. The samples need to be kept cold, so we'll have to get some very small coolers with the ice packs in them, and then something big enough that those could go into. I'm not sure where we'll site it, but it'll be at the building here somewhere. And probably a wooden box that's lockable, but the volunteers have to use something like that.
Ken, is that cold? Is that a specific temperature, or can they be frozen?
It's his.
They're supposed to be not frozen and kept below 6 degrees centigrade, which is about
You need a refrigerator.
50 or so.
You need a refrigerator, really. Put those samples in.
Yeah, the samples further analyzed would need to be stored in the refrigerator. The holding time for samples for the stuff that we're doing is 48 hours. And I was going to be doing all the sample analysis myself.
Your chain of
For
custody,
consistency, yeah, with chain of custody.
yeah, your chain of custody's got to document that temperature then.
Right. But, yeah, so they'd be in a cooler of some sort with the ice packs in them. And then when people drop something off, they notify me, so I know to go pick it up. Okay, and one additional thing, I was at a meeting with the Lancaster Clean Water Partners, and the discussion was on riparian buffers. Areas that are, I mean, the township has a riparian buffer ordinance in the development, but you can get MS4 credit for installing riparian buffers, basically putting in a forested area along the streams. Keeps the water at a lower temperature by shading it, and the area of woodland does more filtering in terms of quality of the water getting in, so there's MS4 credit for that. And they referenced a grant that they have that's available. It would be, the applications are fairly straightforward. It's the Lancaster Community Foundation, due February 24th. And they're for up to $75,000, and there's no match, it's free money.
And how much do a typical project cost though?
This was just yesterday evening.
I know,
got
that's
it,
why
so
you and I
think-
haven't had a chance to talk yet.
Right, I will find out in the next day or so.
Okay.
But, seems like a good idea, free money, MS4 credit. And there are 2 sites, what they're suggesting is on municipally owned land. And there are 2 of them have been identified. One of them is across a driveway here where it's going to run, starts at Hill Road, runs for, as it turns out, 300 feet before would significantly cut the area that has to be mowed.